Hello everyone, and welcome to what would have been the Parents Information Evening that we would have done this week, with everybody being in the hall, listening to a presentation from 2 or 3 people. Really disappointed that we're not able to get everybody in the hall as normal this year for obvious reasons, particularly if you're a parent from a student who wasn't at Whitley Bay High School in year 9, 10, 11, because it's great that you can come in and meet us face to face. But we'll do our best to make sure that this presentation gives you all the information that you need, even if we can't quite have the experience of all being together. The picture on the screen there of the little plant is a metaphor just to acknowledge the fact that our Year 12s may be big and tall, and they may look grown up, and they may act grown up in many ways, but we know that they are still vulnerable. We know that they are just starting out in a new part of their lives, and that they need looking after and nurturing. And we're going to explain in this video how we intend to do that and the processes that we go through. So I'm far from the most important person in the lives of Year 12s at school. Mr. Clark is head of Year 12, and you'll hear from him next. He'll have much more of a day-to-day operational role with our Year 12s, and they will soon get to know him very, very well. I'm Steve Williams. I'm Director of Sixth Form, and to the right of my picture there is Mr. Chambers, who's head of Year 13. And between me and Mr. Chambers and Mr. Clark, we essentially run the Sixth Form of Year 12 and 13. Now, we're assisted in doing that with more staff because we're a large Sixth Form, and therefore we need to staff our Sixth Form to make sure that we can support the students adequately. So you'll see there that there are 4 other faces who may well be in touch with you over the next few weeks, because each of us, Mr. Berry, Mr. Branson, Miss Britland, Mr. Abrahams, myself, Mr. Clark and Mr. Chambers, are all responsible for a cohort of students, and we contact parents if there are any concerns. We deal with those students directly to make sure that each student is looked after in a far more individual, small school, if you like, type way than rather than being lost in a very large Sixth Form. So you may well have calls or communications from any of us, and that means that we're responsible for your son or daughter's progress, and it's us that you'll mainly deal with throughout the 2 years. We're supported in the office by Helen and Alison, who do a wealth of things for us to make sure that everything runs properly. So they're the ones sending out letters to you. They're the ones doing timetables. They're the ones doing university applications with students. They're the ones doing answering the phones. Everything really comes from those 2. And if you contact the Sixth Form office, you'll almost certainly speak to one of those 2 women to begin with, and they will help and assist you if they can. And if they can't, they'll pass you on to someone else. So as well as people who are directly responsible for supporting students academically, we have 2 additional members of staff in the school. Steph on the left there is responsible for careers for the whole school, and that very much includes a Sixth Form role to do with both applying to apprenticeships, employment and universities. She's responsible for the entire process of careers, right the way from Year 9 to 13, lots of careers events and lots of careers advice. And Kirsty on the right-hand side is our school counsellor. She is also responsible for students in Year 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13, but she has time ring-fenced for Sixth Form students to ensure that, should they require more personal counselling rather than academic guidance, that somebody is there for them. So all those pictures there, which you might want to go back and have another look at by going back in the video, all the people that I've just put on the screen for you will almost certainly at some point help support your son or daughter in the Sixth Form. We, of course, have much wider staffing in the form of our leadership, who will also be responsible, perhaps more indirectly, for the support or experiences that Year 12 and 13 students have. Mr. Wilson on the left there is the head teacher, and he is supported by 2 deputies, Miss Buckler and Mr. Sherlaw. Both of those people, Miss Buckler and Mr. Sherlaw, have bases in the Sixth Form, so they're very much part of Sixth Form life. And they do things like writing UCAS references and that kind of thing. So students will need to know who they are, and they will come across them regularly. And our wider leadership team, I'm repeated there at the bottom, but there are additional 5 members of the leadership team on as assistant head teachers, who Year 12 and 13 students will see around the site a lot, even though they may have less direct contact with them. But all of the people on the screen, they're also write UCAS references too, because it's a very big process. And so they may well have direct contact with your sons or daughters. So last year's results were somewhat strange because no exams were sat, of course. At this stage in the presentation, I would normally reassure you that we are a great place to study A-levels because of the outcomes that we get. I'm still going to do that, although they are, of course, not outcomes brought about by exams. They're brought about by teacher-assessed grades or school-assessed grades. And it's important for me to point out that these terrific grades that our students walked away with in 2020, despite not having sat exams, were only brought about by our historic performance at A-level, because when we had to submit these grades many, many months before they were given, we were under very, very strict regulations about to make sure that they were genuine and to make sure that there was no inflation. So our past performance of our A-level students allowed us to put forward what we thought were realistic grades, and in the end those grades were awarded, we're delighted to say. And so if you have a look at the statistics there, you'll see that 34% of our grades, not our students, 34% of our grades were A star or A, 65% A star or B, and 90% A star or C, with an average grade per student of a B. This was really, really pleasing to us and reflected all the hard work that students had put in to their studies, even though they weren't able to show off in an exam room about how capable they were. They nevertheless got the grades that they deserved. The reason that our students are so successful, not just with the centre assessed grades, but with years and years and years of exam awarded grades, is that they work extremely hard and they're dedicated to their studies. Please encourage your sons or daughters to work hard and be dedicated to their studies. If they don't want to work hard or they're not dedicated, they really are doing the wrong thing. We wouldn't want them to be unhappy doing the wrong thing with us for 2 years. We really believe that we teach and our students learn extremely effectively. It's one of our real strengths, as is the additionality we offer, although it is, of course, compromised by the current situation that we can't do as much extracurricular or additionality as we would perhaps like to. I've already mentioned, if you have a look at the fourth bullet point down, our pastoral support and guidance by introducing you to the key figures. These people work all day long to make sure that they are available should any student require any support or any guidance or any advice. And when you put it all together, we have a really happy and safe environment that our students work in, with happy, hardworking staff, and it works. And the evidence that it works is in the grades that I showed you on the previous slide. When our students get good grades, it's all about going on to do exciting things that they couldn't do without those grades. That's what the whole thing's about. And I'm delighted to say that last year, our students pretty much accessed the same progression opportunities that they would have done had the exams not been affected by the current virus situation. Because you'll have read in the papers when the first results came out about the algorithm that people had lost places at universities and so on. It didn't affect us in the end in any significantly negative way. And you can see there that 95% of our students who applied to higher education, to university, secured places. I won't go through all the detail there. You can read that yourself. This is pretty much in line with previous years. We always get 4 or 5% of students who aren't placed and they go on to do something else instead. So we don't think anybody was adversely affected by the initial problems with the infamous algorithm. Not everyone, of course, goes into university. Our students also go into apprenticeships, into employment, as you can see at the bottom there, and many enjoy a gap year too, particularly this year, where people are pausing, I think, to see what is around the corner before they decide to take their next steps. That's enough from me, really. I'm going to give way to Mr. Clark now, who's going to tell you in much more detail what we've been talking to students about and what they can expect this year. I just want to finish by saying a warm welcome to everybody, both parents and students, into our sixth form. And I hope that every day is a very enjoyable one. And should any problems arise, please don't hesitate to contact us.
Hello everyone, I would just like to start by welcoming you all to Whitley Bay High School sixth form. My name's Ian Clark and I'm the head of year 12. I'll have the privilege of being your son or daughter's head of year during their time here, at sixth form. I'll be the main point of contact for students and also yourselves. If there's anything I can do to help, please just get in touch and let me know. Do anything I can, obviously, try and make your son or daughter's time here an enjoyable one and ultimately a successful one. So the purpose of my part of the presentation here is to run through some of the key messages that we have been sharing with students in their first few weeks here with us. Perhaps an obvious place to start is the difference between A-levels and GCSEs. A lot of people think that this is one of the biggest steps in education, and there's obviously a big gap that we have to navigate and try and make that as seamless as possible for the students. Students wouldn't have sat their GCSE exams this year, but what they will find is the content and pace within the lessons is very different. GCSEs will probably feel a lot less demanding once they get started on their A-level courses. But obviously, the fact that they've chosen those courses, three courses usually, is that it's going to be interesting, it's going to be more exciting, and they're going to be fun for them to go off and find out new information and deepen their knowledge in those chosen subjects. What can quickly happen in the first half term is they might feel a bit like that poor person in that tennis photo there, and have lots of tennis balls being thrown off them, or basically new information, new content. So again, the key thing here is to make sure they listen to the advice that's being given, not only from their teachers, but from other students that may have been through this similar process. Our job here is, again, yes, we're here to get them A-levels and get them onto the next steps and going on to employment or university apprenticeships, anything that they want to go on to do. But it's also about developing confident young adults and giving them the skills that are needed for them to go and be successful. Again, these were some of the top 10 skills that were identified as possibly being needed in 2020. So again, these are some of the things that we look to embed within our sixth form learning here. Again, things like emotional intelligence, for example, being aware of other people around you, being highly empathetic, but also things like problem solving, being able to work out problems. So students have already been told about these characteristics that we've talked about and discussed here. The fact that there's a high level of independence expected on sixth form learners. So again, this is something that's very different from GCSEs. There's the independent learning, independent study that is expected to be done by the students. In the induction morning, we talked about the difference between adult and childlike learners, the fact that we want them to be a bit of both. So childlike in their curiosity, their love of learning, wanting to find out more information, ask questions, but at the same time taking a adult and mature, responsible approach to their learning, but also their behaviour around sixth form. Ultimately, they represent the behaviour we expect from all students at Whitley Bay High School. So they are the role models that a lot of students look up to. A lot of this is underpinned by good relationships. So the relationships that students have with their peers, but then also that the relationship they have with their teachers, that's a fundamental characteristic and trait that we look for here, something that we pride ourselves on. So similar to what we were talking about with the number of tennis balls getting thrown at them, this will kind of quickly happen and snowball if we don't get organised from the start. So it's perfectly normal for one given lesson to generate something like three sides of notes, so three sides of A4 paper. What will happen quickly within a fortnight, that would lead to nearly 100 pieces of paper. Again, by Christmas, nearly 800 pieces of paper. So then by the end of year 12, before we do our year 12 end of year exams, they could have nearly 2,000 pieces of paper. So we know this is going to happen. The key thing here now is working out a strategy or a technique that's going to help them to keep everything organized rather than in the bottom of the bag. Do they have files? Do they have folders? Do they have plastic wallets? Do they have subdividers? Right? What is going to be the best strategy for them to make sure all their notes stay organized so they can review it regularly and therefore come back to it? Okay, so if we haven't already, it might be a good idea to get down to a local stationery shop and get those file dividers and everything bought so we can keep on top of it from the start. Alongside this, again, it's embedding the good habits now, get in early. So it's putting in the hours to make sure it's more manageable for them in the long run. Ultimately, what they have is they get 9 hours a fortnight for each lesson, but each lesson generates 6 hours per week. Okay, so alongside their lesson time, they should be doing around about 6 hours per subject per week, independent study. So in their timetable, they'll have free periods, but as we all know, they shouldn't be free periods. They are technically study periods. So if they were to use all those study periods, plus a little bit of additional time either side, that would be enough to basically carry out 6 hours per week per subject. So typically what we normally try to encourage is a working day approach. So like a 9 till 5 or an 8 till 4. Ultimately, it'll be somewhere in the middle. So if they did that, had an hour for lunch in between, that, like I said before, will give them 18 hours independent study a week for their 3 subjects. That means they can have their weekends free. Okay, I think that's quite a powerful message. So working day approach during the week, that would leave their evenings and their weekends free, which again we think is very important and vital for them to for the health, but also for them to maintain their other interests that they might have outside of school. So this was again something that we shared with the students in the induction day, because again, independence is one of the big things at sixth form. It's all well and good saying you need to do more independent study, but sometimes students doesn't know what that looks like. So again, this was just a process that we've developed, 6 stages of independent learning, and these are the type of things they should be doing on a 2-week basis, for example. So that would include preparing for the topic, which is pre-reading. Then you've obviously got the given, which is attend lessons. That is essential. And then straight after that, so the end of the day, do they consolidate the notes? And then 48 hours after, they should be testing, quizzing themselves. And then if they are getting 8 out of 10 on those quizzes, 80%, they should then be moving on to exam style questions before reviewing the entire topic. That's a process that, again, like I said, we've developed, and we think students should be following. A lot of departments also are setting work around this now. So you might be feeling that person in that video, the picture with all the tennis balls, giving you a lot of information here, but ultimately this is all being shared with students. If there's any questions, obviously get in touch. I'll happily help as and when I can. This is an important event that is up and coming, or should I say actually happening now. We have shared some key characteristics or attributes that we feel are vital for A-level success. I'm wondering whether or not they've actually mentioned them to you. If not, perhaps you could maybe spot some of the characteristics that you think we're talking about in this video.
Welcome to Whitley Bay High School Sixth Form. Well done on choosing to study where A-level students make better progress during their courses than almost anywhere else in the country. Wow, good work, folks! And we're sure you'll do just as well in 2 years' time. So, where do these great results come from? Is it just luck? Surely not. Or does it just happen? Perhaps Whitley Bay sixth formers come ready prepared for success. They stroll into their new classrooms, navigating easily through their courses. The exams come along, and they're a piece of cake. Is that what happens? This is going to take some thinking about. In fact, I think it's metaphor time. Listen carefully. Now, it's not difficult really, is it? The patch of ice is you starting your A-levels. Oh, careful there, sir. That's it. Keep going, you can do it. Well done. And he's on his way through his course. Phew, it doesn't affect everyone though, does it? No, I lied. And maybe not. Yep, him as well. And, well, you get the picture. Yep, he did it as well. It's a difficult thing. So, let's develop the idea. Here's an interesting chap. There's the big warning sign. He's seen it. Oh, he's down. And that's exactly the same things that you have to encounter. The warning signs are there. You just have to believe them. Careful, sir. It could be embarrassing. You could do it again. Oh, yes, you've done it. Now, here's another one. He's down and his friends are just laughing. Yes, they're laughing. They're still laughing. Yep, he's made the mistake. He's fallen into the trap and his friends are laughing at him. But wait, what's this? This is new. They are going out of their way to avoid the problems. That's right. They're going out of their way. No embarrassing falls for you guys. And so it goes on. People have acknowledged the danger and have altered their approach to get out of the way of it. This metaphor gets cleverer by the second, doesn't it? Okay, that's it. All right then. All right, let's watch one more for fun. I don't need to do it because I got 6. Hey, 6 sixes. No, I'm down. Look out. I've made a mistake. And would you believe it? He's watched him and he's fallen over again. Right, let's park the ice metaphor and change gear for a second. You see, taking A-levels is a bit like learning to drive. It's exciting. It's different. It's fun. But you have to learn new skills, and before long, you'll be heading safely and expertly onto the motorways. That's why students studying A-levels at Whitley Bay High School sixth form have to pass their own driving test that is assessed by the DVLA. Determination, values, learning, attribution.
Have you done your PE homework?
There wasn't any, was there?
Yeah.
When for?
Next lesson.
Oh no, Andy. As you can see, he has a very poor approach towards his learning at the start of term and doesn't display the independent learning skills expected of a sixth form student. I'm sure if Andy reflected on this approach, he would see his lack of effort as preventing him from reaching his personal best. Come on, Andy. It's October now, and Andy is a fantastic independent learner. He's motivated, he prioritizes his work effectively, using all of his study periods productively, and has a wide range of carefully prepared materials to work with. Just look at him. What a guy!
What time do you call this on?
I'm just looking at my timetable.
Initially, Andrew was a student lacking in responsibility. He has very, very poor levels of organisation and can't find anything that he needs. Let's just take a look at that. Yes, there it is. There's evidence. What's that, Andy? Come on. He is not properly prepared for assessments, and having missed several lessons for medical reasons, he has not shown the commitment to catch up. Come on, Andy. 4 weeks later, Andy is now a very organised student. Just look at him go. He actually looks like he loves learning. He has all the necessary equipment for the lesson, including notepad and a coloured pens. He's ready to colour code his notes, and wow! Just check out that diary. I bet his teacher is really impressed.
If you can do that, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'm going to put the camera
In September,
on. Okay.
Ben has very poor resilience. He doesn't even attempt to persevere independently on a task. He doesn't like a challenge, which is a shame, since resilience is needed to be successful in all walks of life. His lack of empathy and determination actually interferes with other students trying to learn. Not cool, Ben. By October, Ben is more resilient. As you can see, he's not only prepared to help other students, but he actually wants to do well by himself.
I've got this.
Your driving test is in 4 weeks' time. Good luck! You'll soon be like him, or her, or even him. Well, maybe not him. Goodbye!
Oh, that was the introduction to the driving test here at Whitley Bay High School. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as some of our staff had when making it. And it might tell you a little bit about us here at Whitley Bay High School, that yes, we've got key messages and we want the students to push on and achieve the things that they're capable of. But again, we try and do it with a fun and enjoyable way. How did we get on? Did we manage to identify any of the core values or the key attributes that underpin those? So driving test, it is assessed by the DVLA, but not the one in Swansea. That is the one here at Whitley Bay High School, and the key skills that we look for conveniently match that, which is determination, things like resilience, values, so empathy, appreciating the needs of others, learning, which is all to do with independence and the motivation that we touched on earlier, and attribution. So how do we attribute our success and failure? Are we reflective along each step of the way, and do we strive to achieve our personal best each time? Okay. So they are four the core skills that we think are vital for A-level study and to be successful in A-levels. Again, the whole point of this provisional assessment, it is to support that transition. So we've said that GCSE to A-level is potentially one of the biggest steps in education. So again, we need to put some sort of support program in place to help identify any areas that we need to kind of address and support students as they move on to the A-level study. So what we are currently doing is, in our tutorial program, we are looking at each of these skills on an individual basis. We have already looked at determination and values. And again, we're looking at things like what does that mean? What does it look like in lessons? All right. So again, hoping to give the students an idea of what is expected of them in their approach to work. Not only in the tutorial program, but again, each individual subject area, they'll be setting specific tasks and kind of embedding these skills within their lesson time. What happens the first 4 weeks? So this will end on Friday, the 2nd of October. It's at that point then when each individual subject will kind of assess your son or daughter against these four attributes. And again, like I said before, it's not kind of a pass or fail. It's just to kind of identify any areas that we need to support into the A-level study. The driving test is one kind of technique that we use to support students in the first few weeks of A-levels, but we also culminate or finish that with what we call the deadline day task. What this involves is each individual subject that your son or daughter is taking, they will set a specific piece of work which is due in before Friday the 2nd of October at 2 o'clock. Again, I know a lot of departments have already set this, so students are fully aware of what is expected and they can start planning now and organising their time to make sure that they meet this deadline. A lot of departments will obviously support students in this. It's a case of just asking, being proactive, and not leaving it to the last minute. So you might think it's a little bit mean, kind of having all departments set work for exactly the same time. But again, the key thing for this is managing time management, organisation, prioritisation, all these key skills that are essential during their A-level study. It's again putting them in now. So again, the students understand what it's going to be like further on. Again, when we've done this 2 years ago with my previous year group, we introduced this then. I think we had nearly 100% successful completion and handing, which just goes to show that students can do it when they want to. And I have no doubt that your son and daughter will be absolutely fine in terms of meeting that deadline. But if there are any sort of issues, speak to the teachers. Again, come and speak to me, and I'll help wherever I can with that. Just going back again slightly to what we talked about with the working day. If they followed that working day approach and left their evenings and their weekends free, that's what we think is very important for their mental health, but also to maintain and develop their interests, which is similar to what the late Steve Jobs referred to with his development of his Apple products. So again, there weren't just computer scientists, for example, that developed them. They had wider expanding interests such as artists, poets, musicians, which is what he suggests led to the success of all the Apple products. It's something that we obviously agree with here. The reason we've left this in our presentation now is because just make you aware of the enrichment program. Again, this is something that we think is another thing that we think we do quite well here. Unfortunately, this year though, it's not compulsory. We're having to run it as a voluntary basis, because we've had to reduce some of the opportunities that we have available. What we have done is kind of kept on the additional enrichment opportunities that provide UCAS points. So again, it gives them an additional qualification if they want to pursue that option. It is voluntary. Mr. Berry has sent out the Microsoft form where students have signed up for these. The ones that we are running this year are core maths, financial studies, and the EPQ. So again, if you want any more information, obviously ask your son or daughter. They should hopefully be aware of them. And if not, get in touch with myself or Mr. Berry. Finally then, we've got some important dates coming up. Yes, the students have had their induction. Yes, you should hopefully be watching this remote parents information evening. We would have loved to have been doing it in the actual hall and seeing you in person. It's a bit cringy having to do the recorded presentations all the time, but it is what it is. What I would talk about here is the feedback from the driving test, which is obviously week beginning the 12th of October. That is when we will give you the driving test report that has been produced by each department. So again, that will be shared with you in the post. That normally follows the tutor evening that we do normally follows that, because it's the tutor that normally talks through the result of that driving test with you. Unfortunately, again, that's going to have to be a little bit different this year. So what we'll do is we'll put them in the post. We'll also give you a letter just to let you know how your son or daughter is getting on. And if you have any concerns or you would like a phone call from your son or daughter's tutor, again, just let us know and we will arrange that for you. Across the year, you have little staging posts, little signposts, where again we give you updates about how things are going in A-level subjects. Again, you'll see that there's Progress Check 1 and Progress Check 2, which is December and March. And again, there is a parents' evening, which follows that on the 11th. Fingers crossed, hopefully that can go ahead as normal. But again, it's just a case of having to adapt and be flexible and see where we are next year. Another key date there that you'll notice is the week beginning the 14th of June. That is our end of year 12 exams, which is when students will sit end of year exam, just to see how things have gone on the first year. Right, and last slide from me, you'll be pleased to know. Again, just as we said earlier, in terms of communication, relationships are key. Especially given the certain circumstances, not coming into contact with students as much. Everything seems to be done via email, but please be aware that it is an open door policy as such. Doesn't mean they can just walk into the office, but we are very much there. If they need anything, they just need to come and ask, and they just need to come and see us. Steve would have touched upon the guidance tutors and the wealth of experience that we have across the team. We've got over 300 students in year 12. That's quite a lot for me to manage on my own. So again, we have the wealth of the team that are good, willing to pick up every sort of little issue from each individual cohort that they're responsible for. So key messages from us. Our main aims here in sixth form are: number one, students enjoy their time here with us; number two, they go on to be successful; and number three, that they achieve all their ambitions that they want to from sixth form and post 18. Again, if you have any problems whatsoever, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And thank you very much for taking the time to watch this presentation. All right, I hope to be able to speak to you soon in person. All right, thanks very much. Bye bye.